financial planning.
Now, I've given lots of pointers about budgeting, financial planning, financial discipline, but I'm sure the part you really want to get to is how do I make that budget after all of this? Well, first thing I encourage you to do is to ensure that your budget is done on a monthly basis and that it includes each expense that you plan to incur. So let's take a look now, let's delve completely into a budget and exactly how a budget should be made up. Now, if you look at the screen, you would realize, as I said in the beginning, the budget must be tied to a goal. So in this budget, we're going to look at the goal. What is the goal? The goal is to save $9,600 within 1 year. So let's take a look at our expenses and exactly how can we go about saving $9,600 in 1 year. Now, to track your expenses, you always have to compare your actual with what you projected that you're going to spend. So as you can see, on the left hand side, there are all the expenses. And you can see, as I explained earlier, the must expenses, the optional expenses, and in between I'll point out to you some of the expenses that could be considered reserve expenses. The first are the mixed expenses, the must fixed expenses. So let's look at what are the must fixed expenses. This particular person who's made the budget has $2,400 that they spent last month in must fixed expenses. That $2,400 was broken up: $2,000 for their mortgage, $50 for the insurance, and $350 for their student loan. Now, they decided they want to reduce that expense somehow, and later we'll see exactly how they decide to reduce it. How did they do with their must variables? As we go down, you'll notice the must variables. They spent $778 on must variables. Electricity, $83. Gas, $50. Water, $35. Food, groceries, $450. Transportation, $150. And their child's school expenses, an average of $10 for the month, for a total of 778 variable expenses. And then their optional expenses, the optional fixed expenses, they spent $105 last month, $60 for cable and $45 for internet, for $105 in optional fixed expenses. The optional variable expenses, though, they spent $140. $20 for books, $20 on movie rentals, and food, restaurant meals, they spent $100. So their total income for the month was $4,000. Their total expenses, $3,423, which left them with a savings of $577 for that month. Now, if we multiply 577 times 12, you would realize that that brings you a little close, but not close enough to $9,600. So in this case, this person has to do something with their budget. They have to reduce expenses somewhere in order to be able to increase their actual, what is left over at the end, so that they can achieve their goal of $9,600 at the end of the year. So they made a budget for the coming month. And for the coming month, this is how the budget looked. Their must expenses, the word says it, must expenses, you must pay those. You cannot do anything about those. So the mortgage remains at $2,000. The insurance remains at $50. The student loan remains at $350. So their must fixed expenses cannot change. Those remain at $2,400. The variable, the must variable expenses, however, they can do something there. And where they had spent $83 the previous month for electricity, they budgeted this month that they're only going to spend $75. Gas was $50 last month. They said this month they're only going to spend $45. Water was $35 last month. This month they said they budgeted $30 US. Food and groceries, the previous month they had spent $450. This month they budgeted to reduce that by $50 to $400 US. Transportation, which was $150 last month, this month they budgeted to reduce that to $130. School expenses stayed at $10. Cable, which then falls in the optional fixed category, that was reduced from $60 US to $0, so they gave up cable. Internet, which was $45 US, they maintained, because nowadays on internet you can get cable anyhow. Optional variable, books, which was $20 last month, this month they decided to reduce that to $10 US. And movie rentals, they decided let's cut out the movie rentals for now, because we can watch movies on the internet as well. And where they had spent $100 the previous month for food and restaurant meals, so going out, they reduced that this month to $50 US. Now with a salary and income of $4,000, with the new budget, instead of spending $3,423, they are now intending to spend $3,185 US. And with that, they would then be left with $815 that they can save. $815. Now by putting that down on paper, they were able to track their expenses, take a better look and better manage their budget. And so the actual for the next month, they actually saved $813. So they managed to indeed reduce their expenses. So the first month they saved $575. Multiplied by 12, that gives you about $6,900 that they would have saved for the entire year. But the goal, remember, the goal was to save $9,600. And by reducing their expenses in a few categories, they then saved $813 per month. Multiplied by 12, that gives you over $9,700 US. Which means that person set their goal, $9,600, and they actually tracked their expenses and reduced where they could in order to be able to reach the goal at the end of the year. That is how you actually take a budget, tie it to a goal, and manage with the right discipline, because it takes discipline to have to cut out cable, to have to reduce the amount of times you go to the restaurant, to read less books for those who love to read, and even to reduce your electricity, water, and gas bills. It takes discipline, but it's not impossible. And that's how you do a budget. Make sure that you budget a certain amount, project it, and make sure that you stick to that plan. That is what budgeting is really all about. Now, as you can see from that budget, that person was able to save $9,600 US in a year. That extra money that they have saved now, they can go and do so many other things with it. So let's look at some other ways that you can save money or actually increase your income. These are what we call the 7 streams of wealth. And if you take a look at the slide, you would see the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. And when we say millionaire, it doesn't mean the person has to have hundreds of millions. Here are the 7 streams of income. The first is called earned income. That's the income you get from working a regular job. The second is called profit income. That's the income you get from buying and selling. So you buy something at $100 and you sell it at $110. Your profit is $10. The third then is interest income. That's the interest you get from lending money. So lending money to someone. So when you have a savings at the bank, you earn interest income from lending that money to the bank. The fourth stream of income is called dividend income. That's from owning stocks. The fifth is rental income, and that's when you're renting out property, or what we call real estate income. If you have real estate, your real estate increases in value. That in itself is another stream of income. That is then called capital gains. So when your assets increase in value, that's considered income as well. And the final stream of income is called royalties. This is income from having others use your work. So if you decide tomorrow that you're going to write a book, once you've written that book and it's published, you can get royalties because you get income from others using your work. So as you manage to increase the amount of money that you save, you can then venture into other opportunities, other areas where you can increase your streams of income. And if you do it right, yes, the average millionaire can have up to 7 streams of wealth, 7 streams of income. Now before we close, I just want to share with you a few tips that you can do to keep your expenses low on a regular basis. The first, you have to be conscious of your electricity consumption. Electricity consumption is one where expenses can quickly get out of control. So you come into the house, no one else is home, but you put on the television and you feel you have to put on every light in the house. But you're not in the bedroom. Why do you have to have the lights on in the bedroom? You have to be conscious to ensure that you can reduce your electricity expense by being conscious in terms of what lights are on at any given time in the house. It makes a difference in the amount that you can save. Second, try to automate your payments. Earlier on we spoke about fees. Why do we say try to automate your payments? So try to set up what is called standing instructions or standing orders, which instructs the bank to make your payments on the same day every month. Why? Because when you have to go into the bank and pay, and you have a deadline to pay, every day over that deadline costs you extra money. That's where the fees add up, the extra charges. And for some of us, we'll go to the bank and say the line is too long. I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it the day after. That 1 or 2 days costs you extra in fees and charges. And that's where your expenses also sometimes just seem to disappear. So automate your payments. So every month it runs on the same date, the due date, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. Check your bills. You have to also be conscious in checking your bills. At times, your bills may not be correct. So you have to check them. And as you check them, you'll realize you'll fall in love with bills that are low. And you're going to be encouraged to keep those bills low. When you get that utility bill and you see, wow, it used to be $400, now it's only $100. You're going to fall in love with that $100 and you'll want to make sure it stays around that $100. Use reward cards instead of credit or debit cards. Why do we say use reward cards? You get something back. So when you use a card and you earn $1 for each mile or a mile for each dollar, you get something back in return. That's a wise way of using your money. Avoid walking with cash in your wallet or purse. Once you have it, the temptation is always there to find something to spend it on. Do not impulse shop, and particularly do not shop when you're hungry. It has been psychologically proven that when you shop when you're hungry, you tend to overdo that shopping. Especially when you notice you go into supermarkets and they put the candy bars and the chocolate and all those nice stuff right next to the cash register. Be honest with your friends and family about your budget. If you're trying to save, let them know, especially your children. There's nothing wrong with sharing the budget with your children so that they can see the importance of what you're doing. Learn to say no without having to explain yourself. It's your money. Learn to say no. And finally, take baby steps. We all can't save $9,600 in a year right away. So make sure that you decide to save some amount, no matter how small the amount. Take baby steps in the process, and you'll notice as you go along, you'll be able to take bigger and bigger steps and do bigger and better things with your budget, with your finances, and you'll become much more financially disciplined with your money. So finally, in conclusion, financial discipline, what is it all about? What can it do for you? Well, by practicing financial discipline, we're able to achieve goals no matter the amount of income we may have. As a matter of fact, some people, the less they make, the better they are at managing their expenses. You have to be conscious of the difference between needs, wants, and investing. Ensure that you track your expenses and be conscious that little expenses can sink great ships. Create a budget, tie that budget to a goal, and follow that goal with discipline. And understand that true discipline is only realized through using the daily tips that were shared with you to keep your expenses under control, to be better financially disciplined, and to achieve exactly whatever it is you want to achieve in life. So go out, practice financial discipline, work on that budget, and much success with whatever it is your goal is.